Damn, that's a pig. I'd have never found this thing. I'm very grateful, man. Thank you.
Searching for a deer with a tracking hound. Over the river and through the woods, across the field, this dog is good. Found a little blood and two wound bed, and tracking hounds telling me this deer is dead. Over the river and through the woods, across the field, this dog is good. Found a little blood and two wound bed, and tracking hounds telling me this deer is dead.
Thank you. This is why you call a dog.
Yeah.
Hello, friends, fans, and followers. Long time no chat. Real live this time. Got used to doing lives with the ABTA, so I thought, what the heck? Might as well do a live with my own. This is streaming to Facebook and YouTube. Tales on Trails Deer Trekking on YouTube, for those who might want to follow. Yeah, it's been an awful long time since I've put out the podcast, the Tales on Trails Deer Trekking podcast. So thanks for tuning in, and thanks to those who follow along. We've been busy. Been doing a lot of ABTA live streams every Tuesday. That's been taking up a lot of time, as you might imagine. And thank you for those who do follow along on that, chime in and participate. So, but even though we've been busy and I haven't been real active with Tales on Trail stuff, the wheels are always turning about stuff. Content, things are always on my mind. Always thinking about what's next, always thinking about what has been. We really, I think, taken some leaps here lately, from the end of last season as we, the last third of last season through into this off season. And, just based on where we're at in our tracking careers and where she's at in her, maturity, I think, I just think we could have a pretty decent season this year. And I'm really looking forward to it. We've been able to get, as you see back there, a few more certifications. We was able to get ABTA started in season level certification. We got our UBT off lead certification. We tested a couple weeks ago for an ABTA finish level. For those who don't know, that is, in terms of level of achievement, I guess, ABTA's finish level is the same level as the UBT 3. So we tested, but we were not successful in terms of leaving there with a ribbon. But it was a lot of fun. I did learn some stuff, and that's what testing is about. It's about learning. And I'll test for it again, at some point, and we'll see. But I did learn some stuff. Ethan Young was my judge, and with Kenny, and got some pretty good feedback. And I don't want to say humbling, but maybe it certainly gave me some things to reflect on, and I'm going to change my approach to certain elements of the track based on that feedback and based on the test results. So, but it was a ton of fun. I learned something, and it was great stuff. But I said I think about stuff, and I have a where things I want to talk about tonight, things on my mind. I don't have anything scripted because me, I just tend to kind of riff. This is a little bit of a philosophical riff, and it's been something that when something tends to consume my mind, I've got to find an outlet for it. And it just so happens that this podcast is my outlet for this. It's just been on my mind way too much, to the point where it's creating a certain amount of anxiety for me. So I'm just going to get it out tonight, and just talk about it, and I welcome comments and feedback or tuning out, whatever you want to do, you know. And one thing I will say is anything that I say is just from my perspective. It doesn't mean it's right. It doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means it's what's on my mind, and it's based on my experience or my observations or conversations I've had with others. So one thing about the tracking world and anything is there are a lot of ways of doing things. And I don't know if there's necessarily anything that's right or necessarily wrong, but they are different. And one thing that is, I guess, with anything, there's really some very strong views and opinions and perspectives in the tracking world. And things can actually get kind of divisive. And people can get divisive. And I don't do divisive well. I don't like it. I think for the most part, it's unneeded and unnecessary. But it's there. In a nation, how many? Is there 1,000 trackers coast to coast? I don't know. Is there 2,000? A lot, but not many. Fractional in terms of population. So it's a niche group. And there are some great people in this community. We're going to get to that word community here in a minute, but I've met some great people in the tracking world. I have developed what I think is going to be and hope is going to be some very lasting friendships in the tracking world. But there is divisiveness in it, man, and I don't get it. I can't relate to it. I don't understand kind of where it comes from sometimes. Because we all can, we all have our views and perspectives, man, and none of them are any more entitled than the other, I guess. But I titled this stream. Community with a question mark, and we use the tracking community a whole bunch in conversations on Facebook, on in conversation, on podcasts, on live streams, all the time. The word community comes up over and over and over and over again in the tracking world. So I got to thinking about that, and I asked AI. I said, I wonder what AI would think. I wonder what AI would say a community is in the context in which we do it. Or, in the tracking context. So I want to read to you what AI said. I like it. I'll tell you that. I asked AI to define community in the context of a field or a hobby. That's what I asked it to do. It responded with this. I'm going to read it to you. And just kind of think on this and take some mental notes as I'm going through this, and we'll I'll talk about it a little bit. But in the context of a field or hobby, a community refers to a group of individuals who share a common interest, passion, or a set of skills, and who interact with each other to pursue, develop, and celebrate that shared domain. Key characteristics of such community include shared interest domain. The foundational element is a common passion, whether it's a specific field of study, example, astrophysics, linguistics, a craft, example, knitting, woodworking, a sport, example, cycling, rock climbing, or a cultural pursuit, example, film appreciation, historical reenactment. This shared domain defines the identity of the community. Okay. Interconnectedness and interaction. These are key characteristics of a community in the context that uh, we refer to it in the tracking community. Okay, so interconnectedness and interaction. Members actively engage with one another. This can manifest in various ways, such as knowledge sharing, exchanging information, tips, techniques, and experiences, mutual support, offering encouragement, advice, and assistance to fellow enthusiasts, collaboration, working together on projects, events, or problem solving, socialization, forming personal relationships and friendships based on their shared interest. Okay, another key element is sense of belonging. Individuals feel a sense of inclusion and connection to the group. They identify with the community and feel that their contributions are valued. Okay. Collective learning and development. Through interaction, members collectively deepen their understanding and improve their skills within the field or hobby. This can involve formal learning, workshops or classes, or informal learning, discussions and mentorship. Okay. Shared norms and practices, often implicit. Over time, a community may develop shared ways of doing things, unspoken rules, or common language that are understood and followed by its members. Formal or informal structures. Communities can exist in various forms. Formal, clubs, organizations, associations, outline forms of formal clubs, organizations, associations, online forums with moderators. Informal structure, regular meetups, online chat groups, social media groups, or even just network of individuals who connect regularly. The tracking world is both of those, formal and informal. Essentially, a community in this context provides a space for individuals to explore their passion, learn from others, find support, and feel a sense of identity and belonging rooted in common pursuit. So that's what AI had to say about community. And I agree. I like that. I like what this spit out, which is precisely why I'm talking about it here and reading it here tonight. So, if we think about the things that I just read there, and and call the tracking world a community, is it a community? Is it a community? If a community is defined by the things that I've just read, the values, I don't know. I hope so. I suppose within the overall community, there can be sub communities, such as, national groups, state groups, local groups, um, regional groups. I suppose those can be communities among, um, you know, in their own right. But we're always hearing people talk about, for the good of the tracking community, for the betterment of the tracking community. And I guess for me, I think the betterment of the overall tracking community is the perspective. Whether we know it or not, or whether we like it or not, we are responsible for and accountable to our every action. It's just the way it is. It's part of being an adult. But whether we know it or not, or whether we like it or not, we as trackers in the tracking community have an impact on that community in some way. Whether it's nationally, globally, regionally, or in your own, 25 square feet of your office. We are having an impact on it in some way. And if we're talking about it in the greater sense, I don't understand some of the divisiveness and some of the what do I want to say? Just the approach that I see taken at times. And we all see taken at times. If we are saying things like community and the greater good of the community, we need to be open minded and receptive to other views and perspectives and welcome them and chat about them like adults that do share a common value or a common interest, nobody owns tracking. Nobody nationally owns tracking. Nobody at a state level owns tracking. Nobody at a regional level owns tracking. No individual owns tracking. So what I don't understand and just have a hard time relating to is why do we have some of the competition that seems to be out there? What are we competing for? What are we competing over? What have we got to win or what have we got to lose? No individual owns tracking. So I just struggle a little bit with some of what I see. And as long as that sentiment is there at the individual level, at the state level, at the regional level, at the national level, it's going to impact, and not favorably, the greater good of tracking coast to coast. The tracking community. And now look, I understand. Anytime you get get 1,000 or two people together, there's going to be tiffs and riffs. Perfectly understandable. But and we don't have to agree on everything. Heck, there's plenty I don't agree with, and there are plenty who don't agree with me. But I try, and I'm not saying I'm terribly successful, but I try to be open-minded about things, and I try to let be open to different thoughts and ideas and perspectives and opinions. My views and opinions and perspectives on things have changed, and I would hope would continue to change as experience and is gained, as situations are encountered, as I engage in conversations. It should change. If we can never change our opinion or our perspective, then I don't think we can really ever grow. Because believe it or not, contrary to popular belief, nobody in the trekking world is the smartest person on earth. And I'm way down at the bottom of the smart people on earth list. I can tell you that. So, and you can learn from anybody at any time if you're receptive to it. And it's okay to learn something. It's okay for a 20-year guy to learn something from a little old, 3-year guy like me. Probably doesn't happen much, but you never know. It and little old 3-year guys like me should be grasping on to the depth of knowledge and experience of everybody. Well, everybody in general, but if we start talking about the grizzled veterans, they got a lot to share. I'm in Michigan. We're in Michigan. We know there are 2 primary tracking networks in Michigan. I'm a damn proud member and admin of one of them, and just asked to be added to the other. That's okay. There can be 2 networks. Nationally, there's 2 national organizations. There can be 2 national organizations. A lot of comments and a lot of people, ego comes up a lot. It's coming up a lot right now in the comments and the chats. It's coming up in conversation. You see it all the time in Facebook chats. And yeah, it's there. Again, I don't get it. I'm a man, so I have an ego. That's for sure. But I try to meter it, and and for me, I just don't get it. So okay, so you're top cock on the block for whatever you think you're top cock on the block for in the tracking world. Okay, well, what did you gain from that? What do you lose for not being top cock on the block? Yeah, Kenny says the word ego is also very misused. Yeah, maybe so. Maybe so. But it's used a lot. It's out there. I really don't know where I'm going from here. I wanted to read that community thing. I wanted to just riff a little bit about it because I don't I don't understand it. So there are different perspectives, I suppose. And I respect those that have a different perspective than me. Um, if we think about tracking, there's all kind. There's debates on whether you should charge or not. Well, charge. Who cares? It's nobody's business whether you charge or not. You want to promote something, then promote it. But what I think happens, if your motives are pure and you're operating in good faith, I think the truth prevails, whatever the truth is. I think the bad faith operators, I don't know how long that ruse can be kept up, if they're a true bad faith operator. But everybody's going to make mistakes somewhere along the way. I'm going to say something that may offend somebody. I certainly don't mean to offend anybody. But I know my intent is pure. I know I'm not trying to offend anybody. I'm just, so here we go. Here I go with my John Woodenisms. You guys know me, and I'm a massive, massive, massive John Wooden fan. If you don't know him, look him up. I bring him up all the time. I think on Tuesday night's live stream with Kenny, I read his definition of success as we were talking about what is success on a track. John Wooden said, the good Lord didn't create us all equal in terms of size or intelligence, things like that. But he did create us equal in the sense that, and I'm paraphrasing, but he did create us equal in the sense that we all have the opportunity to do the very best that we can do to become the very best, to become the very best of which we are capable. So he also says, we should never try to be better than anybody else. We should only try to be as good as we can be. And I wholly embrace that. And if you guys don't know who John Wooden is, I beg you, please, please, please search John Wooden speeches on YouTube. In fact, maybe I'll post one in this chat. It has nothing to do with tracking. It has little to do with basketball. For those that may not know, John Wooden is the legendary UCLA basketball coach whose accomplishments will never be duplicated, but should desperately try to be emulated, particularly his approach, I guess is what I'm getting at. But I beg you, look up John Wooden. And I think that ego thing that keeps popping up is maybe driven by people trying to be better than other people. I don't know. I'm not trying to find fault or lecture here anybody. But like I said, this has been eating at me for a long time. And this is my outlet to get it out. So thank you all for listening and chiming in and letting me entertain you with my whimsical musings and psychobabble here. But if we are doing the best to be the best that we can be, that should include embracing others and helping others become the best that they can be. You know, you see this thing that goes around on Facebook, and I hate corporate motivational speaking. I hate corporate crap, but I love leadership things. I read Bo Schembechler's book on leadership. God, it was so inspiring to me. John Wooden's book, his Pyramid of Success. Check it out. Check out John Wooden's Pyramid of Success. But you see this meme going around that says the only time a leader should look down on anybody is when they're reaching down to pull somebody up. And if we are at a higher level in our craft than somebody else in our craft, why would we not want to reach down and lend them that hand and help pull them up? Why would we not? Let me ask this. What have you got to lose for doing that? Someone put in the comments, what have you got to lose for helping somebody be as good as they can be? Servant leadership, Tony. Yeah, I agree. Leadership quotes. I'm huge on them. I'm going to give you two more. Okay. One of them is a John Wooden quote that might surprise you. One of my favorite John Wooden quotes. It was hanging on the wall behind me when it was my football coaching office. Now this is my tracking office, so I've changed the setting. And my John Wooden quotes and Booker T. Washington quotes and things are in my office at work. But I'll tell you one of my favorite John Wooden quotes. I use this all the time when I was coaching football, and it applies to anything because it's not specific to sports. Okay. And the quote is, a player who makes the team great is more valuable than a great player. Losing yourself in the group for the good of the group, that's teamwork. So that, yes, that is I guess a sports reference, but not really. Teamwork comes in all forms. That's why we call ourselves tracking teams. A team, there's a group of people, and then there are teams. There's a massive difference between the two. Group of people don't accomplish anything. Teams move mountains. Why would we want to move mountains? So I told you I had two quotes. The other one is from Booker T. Washington. If you don't know who Booker T. Washington is, look him up too. This quote is also it's on my Facebook, philosophical quote thing on my Facebook bio or whatever. And I wholly believe this too. It goes back to that meme I talked about. The only time a leader should be looking down on somebody is when they're extending their hand to help lift them up. Booker T. Washington says, there are two ways of exerting one's strength. One is pushing down, the other is lifting up. I love that. Because we have some real strong people in the tracking community. There that word is again, community. And why would we not want to use whatever strength we have to lift somebody up, to lift up, instead of pushing down? You can use your strength in either way. But why not? Sorry, I'm reading a comment here. Yeah, and I'll read them. I'm totally stealing the ABTA live Tuesday Night Live format here. I'll riff and I'll grab some comments because there's good stuff. And Kenny, I see yours there. Yeah, you're right. Some people, let me just read it. Kenny says some don't actually want to help. They try to compete instead of learn. They don't respect the work. They're not ready yet. They burn bridges. They're not coachable, and I'm sure there's more. Yeah, you're right. And I don't dispute any of that. But my question is why? And that's another point. I don't get it. I don't get it because what have you got? Again, I'll go back to it. What have you got to lose by helping somebody? What have you got to lose by being receptive and open minded? What have you got to gain by suppressing somebody? I don't get it. Now, look, I totally get it, man. We're humans. It's human nature to not agree on everything. And you know what? Nor should we. Nor should we. But if we're truly interested in being the best that we can be, shouldn't we? Shouldn't we be receptive and open-minded? Because you just never know what you can pick up, what perspective you might get, or learn something from. I coached football for a long time, and I had some teams that were really not laden with a lot of talent. But I can tell you they were successful because of how they came together as a team. They played for each other. They were genuinely interested in helping each other. They would not quit on each other. They were not going to let their teammates down because they knew their teammates were not going to let them down. And those were some of the greatest years of my life was coaching and bringing teams together and getting them to play for each other. And I really don't see how that can apply to everything. My job. I'm a manager, and I have I don't know eight people that report to me in 3 or 4 different states. Only one of them is in Michigan. Only one of the people in Michigan. And they're different skill sets, different talent levels, different abilities. But one thing that I truly admire about my team, my corporate professional team, is they will do anything to help each other. None of them is going to leave the other one hanging. And I couldn't be more proud of that. It makes my job as a manager very easy. I pretty much just got to stay out of the way and approve vacation time, you know. Why can't it be that way in our community? Essentially, a community in this context provides a space for individuals to explore their passion, learn from others, find support, and feel a sense of identity and belonging rooted in a common pursuit. Yeah, I don't know. don't know. I tell you what I do know. I'm damn proud of the work that I've been able to be a part of with the ABTA. You know, I feel like we're doing some great things. You know, and I feel like I've had a small part of that, and I'm glad and proud to be a small part of that. You know, it comes. You know, if you think about missions and guiding principles and values, you know, I'd encourage everybody to, you know, make a short list of things that you know, guiding principles or core values. I had a list. Here we go with my coaching again. I had a list of there weren't many. There were 5 or 6, and I forget what they all were right now. And I wish I probably got them here somewhere on my desk. But every single thing we did as a team was driven by those core values. And if we were doing something that you couldn't point to at least one or more of those core values, you probably need to stop doing it. That's how we operated. Because it doesn't fit, you know, the core values, that's your map. You know, that's your map to success, or you know, maybe not map to success, but you know, that's what should guide you. If your core principles or core values are again honest and in good faith, that should be your roadmap. If you're not sure, refer to your core values. If you can't point to one or more of those core values, maybe you need to reflect on what we're doing. I don't know. I told you guys there's going to be a philosophical pondering or philosophical musing, ponderance, whatever. You know, I think the tracking community is a great community, and there's that word again, community. Tracking is a fulfillment for me. It's fulfilling. It is absolutely fulfilling. It filled a huge void that coaching left when I retired. I indulged pretty hard. I jumped in pretty hard. I jumped in pretty hard in a tracking. Jumped in with both feet. You know I got side-eyed a little bit because I started a podcast when when I don't know anything about tracking, and I get that. But I did it, you know, selfishly to learn, and to some degree, fill a void. You know, I had to do something, man. I defined myself as a football coach for 27 years. And I needed something because that left one massive void in my life. So I dove in. And I couldn't be happier that I did. You know, it's been it's a lifestyle for me now. Tracking is a lifestyle for me. Don't get me wrong. I love my wife. I love my grandkids. I love my kids. They are my world. But you know what? So is tracking. Tracking is too. And when I see the divisiveness between organizations, it just bothers me. I don't get it. And I'm not talking about anybody specific, just in general. It just doesn't compute to me. Because man, there's some good people. There are some good people out there, man. There are good people who do things differently, and that's okay. And that's probably a good thing. Are there some bad actors? Sure, of course there are. Are there some bad faith people? Yeah, I mean, I guess, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't really know where I'm going from here, guys. But I would ask this of you. As we talk in our Facebook chats, in our network chats, and on podcasts, and we use the word tracking, the term tracking community. Reflect on what that means to you. What does that really mean? What is a community to you? No, Calvin, I'm good. I don't need a hug. I got my dog. She'll hug. I'll hug her later. What does that mean to you? Community. In the context of field or hobby, a community refers to a group of individuals who share a common interest, passion, or set of skills and who interact with each other to pursue, develop, and celebrate that shared domain. Key characteristics of such a community include shared interest in domain, interconnectedness and interaction, knowledge sharing, mutual support, collaboration, socialization, sense of belonging, collective learning and development, shared norms and practices, often implicit, not explicit, know the difference, formal or informal structures. Formal structures, clubs, organizations, associations, online forums, and moderators. I'm a member of all of that. Informal, regular meetups, online chat groups, social media groups, or even just a network of individuals who connect regularly. We're all a member of both of those things. Essentially, a community in this context provides a space for individuals to explore their passion, learn from others, find support, and feel a sense of identity and belonging rooted in common pursuit. I just wanted to read that again. Let me hit some comments here. Calvin says, "Fake it till you make it." Some people live by that. Others learn, build, and join with those who support each other. Yes, I agree. And yeah, Michael, there are communities within communities. You're right. And just as I was talking about that, just as your comment popped up, Calvin says, "Egos. That's why there's what you ask of." egos and greed. I don't know who's getting money or who's getting rich tracking, but yeah, I guess. And again, I don't get it. Fake it till you make it. Kenny says, fake it till you make it. I make it has been my motto. Fake it till you make it has been my motto. The word ego is often very misused. Yeah, yeah. Every community has a bantam rooster, like the chicken hawk on the Looney Tunes cartoon with Foghorn Leghorn. The little chicken hawk struts around. Jeremiah, it's a need to stand out and be validated because some can't give that to themselves. They need it from others. You know, Jeremiah, that's an interesting point. Validation. Validation. We all want to be validated. Hell, I want to be validated. I want to be validated. You want validation? Take a test. Take a tracking test. That's a form of validation. You'll get some feedback. The worst thing that happens from a test where you don't leave with a ribbon is you just got a private lesson, and you're better for it. So yeah, validation. I'm glad you mentioned that, Jeremiah. Whether they're going about it the right way is another issue. Yep, there you go. Yeah, yeah. Are you exerting your strength by pushing down or lifting up? Ethan Young says, love Wooden. Me too, buddy. Me too. There's a giant sense of fear of missing out in the tracking world right now with being seen as somebody. I guess. Yeah, I don't, and again, I don't know. I want to find every deer we track. I know that. And that's really where the rubber meets the road. Is how are you, the hunters you track for, forget about the trackers you engage with. And we all want that validation that we're on the right track or we're doing things the right way or we all want that. Hell, I desperately wanted that, and we all still want a validation. But what are the hunters that you track for? What are they going to say? How are you going to be depicted in the story that they tell? That's kind of a measure right there. Forget about how you look to other trackers. How do you look to the people you're trying to help? Servant leadership, says Tony Hayes. My war room, says Ethan, talking about my office down here. Chad Pickett says, it's amazing what a group can accomplish if it doesn't matter who gets credit. Harry Truman. Yeah, that's exactly right, Chad. Harry Truman. Kenny says, some don't actually want to help. I read this before. We'll do it again. Some don't actually want to help. They try to compare instead of learn. They don't respect the work. They're not ready, yet they burn bridges. They're not coachable, and I'm sure there's more. There are more. Yeah, I agree, Kenny. Yep. Not coachable. More people learn by just the simple fact of assisting others by learning. Yep, that's Calvin. The biggest problem is social media. Social media can be a big problem. and so much being taken in the wrong manner, especially with communication differences across different regions. That's true. That's true. You really got to be careful with um, with Facebook comments and things such as that. You lose. It's hard to read tone in a comment. The same sentence read with two different tones completely changes the meaning. So there's zero question about that. You can lose context a little bit too, and just a little sound bite or a little snippet. Context matters. Kenny, communication is key. Communication is absolutely key. 100%. 100%. But and communication is bidirectional, right? The communication model has a sender, the receiver, and the message. Maybe the delivery. I don't know. There's probably some corporate guys that can really walk through and really break down the communication model, and I've been trained on it. I don't know, but communication matters. Thank you for the comment, Ethan, about the ABTA. I do appreciate that. Zach Stone. I just want to say, as a new tracker, everyone I reached out to, asked questions and advice from, has been super supportive. I was so nervous going into our first event this year, but everyone was so helpful and more than happy to help and answer questions. There are so many amazing people I've met in this little time we've been a part of it. Appreciate what you're doing, Matt and Kenny, for taking the time to chat with me. Just want to say thanks. Well, thanks, Zach. Do appreciate that, man. And there it is. That's a validation to me. We always say we were just talking about validation, and we want to be validated. To me, that's a validation, Zach, and thank you. We certainly try. We certainly try. Tony, Matt, I'd imagine your players would run through a brick wall for you, or at least die trying. I know you are a huge inspiration to many trackers and teams. I've never read a negative comment, even when speaking truth. You speak the truth in a building up kind of way. Well, Tony, thank you so much. Truly, again, there is validation. Thank you. That means a lot to me, brother. How does Rombo say? I'm just waiting for the coach to come out and get his stuff and start pointing on the board. Yeah, get my stick out and start pointing on the board. Yeah, I will tell you, Ron, I never, even though I look like an old pro and veteran, stick pointer at the event, the other weekend, I rarely ever used a pointing stick in my 27 years of coaching. But it was fun. I liked it. Yeah, Ethan, tracking. It has a way of getting, in reference to the tracking and what it has become in the fulfillment, says it has a way of getting under your skin and becoming an identity. It does. I identified myself as a football coach for a long time, and I still have players that call me coach, and I still love everything about that. My email is Coach M. Berger, and it will be for as long as I can have that email. But yeah, tracking is becoming who I am now. Megan, I know we had a few conversations about that, and you've always been super supportive. I wouldn't have done many things had it not been for your encouragement. I'm still considered new to all of this, but both jumped off the deep end and we swam. But we both jumped off the deep end and we swam. Yeah, jump in, commit to it, go. Full tilt boogie. Full tilt boogie, baby. Full tilt boogie. Hit the ground running. Sometimes pushing down is the first step to lifting up. I had to do that with family members to get them clean. You know what? I know what you mean by that, Kenny. I wouldn't necessarily call that pushing down, but I know what you mean by that, buddy. That was all part of lifting up. And I don't know anything about getting clean, so I don't want to pretend like I do and speak something about something that I have no business speaking about. But yeah, I get it, dude. Yeah, Kenny, I left the corporate world, all that stuff behind me. Yeah, believe me, buddy. Uh, I I fantasize about that. 13 more years or so. 12 years. 12 years. 12 years. I hope I can leave the corporate world. Yeah, Kenny. Well, hey, I'm interested in your stories, buddy. I'm interested in your stories. Yeah, Michael, dog tracking and the ABTA have changed my life after 23 years in prison. Yeah, Michael, all right. Yeah, you were not in prison for 23 years. You worked in a prison for 23 years. You probably have the heart with an arrow through it that says mom tattooed to prove it, right, buddy? Yeah. Well, guys, look, I appreciate you letting me riff here. I apologize if it seemed preachy. I apologize if it seemed like I was lecturing, because I certainly don't mean to do that. But the divisiveness, it just got to the point where I had to get it out. So thanks for listening. Continue to chime into the the ABTA live streams on the Tuesday night lives. Kenny and I really appreciate you. Those that do follow that, we do appreciate it. Your comments, just like this, are fun. They're engaging. Working on something. I'm not sure what Tuesday's going to bring. It's going to depend on if the guest I reached out to today is able to do it. Otherwise, we'll have something, because we always do. And I don't know what's next for my Tales on Trails Deer Tracking podcast. I'll get this one up. This is, like I said, it'll be on Facebook for 30 days until they delete it, because it's a live stream. It will live on YouTube in infamy. Tales on Trails Deer Tracking on YouTube. And I will put it up on Spotify and all of the other audio platforms tonight. But guys, if you have an idea for a topic, shoot us a message, man. Daryl and I talked about something today that we'll talk. We'll slip it in on a Tuesday night live at some point. But we'll just keep slugging and chugging. A couple more comments. I'm here for it, says Ethan. I felt every minute of this. I have a ton of fatigue from the community tracking in my favorite activity, and I intentionally avoid all the groups because they can drain me. Totally crazy, says Tony. What picture frame are those in the background? Do they have a place for the ribbon and the pictures? Oh, Tony. So those are just studio decor shadow boxes from Michaels, and 16 by 20 shadow boxes. Yeah, right there. 16 by 20 shadow boxes, adjustable depth shadow boxes, and the backer is just a piece of the backer is just a piece of this foam. It's foam board that obviously you see I cut out. What am I trying to do here? Yeah, I cut it out, put it in there, taped the pictures on, and the ribbon hook, I just put a little slit in there and stuck it through. Very crude, very generic, but looks good enough. Looks good enough as a backdrop, but that's all that is. Yep. Oh. I'm just reading comments here, so sorry about sticking my face up there oddly. What about a bunch of trackers sitting around bantering? Oh, wait, Calvin says. Yeah, that's the best part. That's the best part, the bantering. So he said you suck. I think they're talking about Michael's video. Pretty good video, by the way, Michael. Awesome to see Vidar progress. And he's ready, dude. He's ready, and you know it. Go see Joe. I know there's no rush. I know it's not a race. But he could do it. You know he could. So, all right, guys. Well, look, I'm not going to just hang out just to stretch this out. I got it off my chest. I feel better. I do appreciate it. Again, please understand the context where I'm coming with this. It's not a lecture. It's not a preach. I'm not preaching. I'm just saying what's been on my mind for a bit. So, again, I genuinely appreciate it. Thanks for chiming in. I'll get it up. Again, send us comments, send us notes on topics that you would like to see discussed. Believe it or not, it's July 11th. We're just weeks away from tracking season. And starting in September for most of us, I think. Kenny, doesn't South Florida start in August or something? I think they're even out west. I think there's some seasons that open out west. Velvet season maybe in August. I don't know, but I know for us here in Michigan, we start in September. So it's going to be here before we know it. So guys, again, thanks for chiming in. Thanks for commenting. Thanks for listening. And I'm hoping to get more Tales on Trails Deer Tracking podcasts up. So more the good, less the bad, guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for following. Talk to you soon. Thank you.